I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Village Board for April 26, 2022. Could you please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Corey, could you please call the roll?
President DeSimone.
Here.
Trustee Carmona.
Here.
Trustee Franz.
Here.
Trustee Fry.
Here.
Trustee Lomax.
Here.
Trustee Panicola.
Here.
Trustee Perez.
Here.
That's 7. We have a quorum.
At this time, we have a couple public hearing presentations. The first one will be a presentation from our aging community consultant, Brad, should put my glasses on, right? Winnick. Brad?
You nailed the pronunciation.
Thank you.
Hello again. Does that work? Yep. Okay, good. Well, it's good to be back. It's the third time I've been here to present, so I've met a good number of the folks and maybe some of the folks in the audience as well. Wanted to give a brief presentation just to familiarize the community that may not be familiar with the work that I have done in partnership with the community over the last couple of months. The program is called Aging in a Changing Region. And as you can see, I'm going to talk a little bit about the program, and I'm going to talk about the work we specifically did in Bensonville, and I'm going to give some of the observations and the recommendations that I made, and then talk a little bit about the implementation, which happens after tonight when I'm gone, and then maybe some final comments, and any questions or conversation. I'm always happy for that. So the program was funded by the RRF Foundation for Aging, and it was funded for 2 years, 21 and 22. All of the municipalities, Bensonville included, participated at no cost to the community. It was completely grant funded. And it was a partnership between 3 organizations. I like to say 2 really big ones and 1 really little one. The 2 really big ones were CMAP, the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, which, as it says, and I believe you may have gotten the handout for this as well, covers the 7 counties in the region. Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, which similarly covers those counties and works specifically with mayors and managers. And then the small one is Planning Aging, which is a firm that focuses on the intersection between community planning and an aging population. And that's a very small niche consultancy that's been in existence for 10 years, and 100% of that consultancy's employees are speaking with you now. So the program goals were simple. From my being involved in this work for the last 10 years, it dawned on me that the practice really needed to expand and diversify. Too few communities were actually being recognized as wanting to support aging in their communities. And too often, it was focused on communities that had found their way to one of the national or international designations. And I said, no, a whole lot more communities want to be involved and are looking for help in perhaps supporting aging in community in their communities. And they wanted, and from some of the work that the Mayor's Caucus had done, I had been involved with this, communities really want some strategic recommendations, maybe a little assistance, a little guidance, rather than a full-blown plan, which would be another, document that would tell you what you have to do. So my strategy and my philosophy is working with communities, meeting you where you are, helping you get to or giving you some guidance perhaps to move towards where you would like to be with regards to aging in community. That was my strategy. So the program was fairly simple. Municipalities submitted simple online applications last spring. Although I should note, I have to say this because my now good friend Mary is here, and I like to say that Bensonville, I live in Chicago, and Bensonville was the one community that stuffed the ballot box. Mary and also former community planner Kelsey Faywell each submitted an application for Bensonville. And rather than it, being held against you. I thought that was really creative. We never stated that communities could only submit one application, so I gave you kudos for being creative and stuffing the ballot box rather than, holding it against you. So I worked with a core team that was Mary and Kelsey and consulted with a good number of you here. Bensenville was one of 5 municipalities that we worked with, and I always like to give the names of the 5 communities in the cohort to reflect the diversity in geography and community type and socioeconomics. So the 5 communities were, and I say them in alphabetical order, but it serves me well here because Bensenville's first. So we worked with Bensenville, Calumet City, Hawthorne Woods, Mount Prospect, and Park Forest. And if you're familiar with those communities, I challenge any one of you to come up to me later and tell me in what ways you're also similar to those other 4 communities other than perhaps being our cohort. So 2 workshops, after which I put together a bit of a document with some recommendations, and I know the document was in the packet so that all of the folks sitting in the dais have seen the strategic guide. So we did 2 workshops. The folks here in town thought it would be good to have them close together, so I was here twice in 2 weeks, and it was fun. We did 2 Wednesday nights. The first workshop was held, and the audience was focused on stakeholders, so a lot of the departments, a lot of the sister agencies, a lot of the other folks involved in making Bensenville the community that it is, providing services, et cetera. So we had, businesses, we had social service agencies, we had park district libraries, et cetera. The second workshop, a week later, the focus was on community residents, and we filled the room. It warmed my heart as the consultant to see that as we were getting ready to start, Trustee Fry was here. The folks kept coming in, putting more rows of chairs, so that feels good. Believe me, I've been on the other side of that extreme in my career as a consultant as well. So the document that we put together, and the Bensenville, they're thin. They're thin enough that we hope they're going to be actually read and used. I don't believe that consultants prove their value by poundage or page numbers of what they produce. I always think it's harder to say something in brief than at length. So the documents for all 5 municipalities, we like to think they're readable and they make a nice group of 5. So some of the recommendations that I came up with, and believe me, everything that I recommended, everything I learned, everything I know about Bensenville, I learned from this project and from learning from my partners in town and from coming here, reading your materials, trying to get a sense of the community, and reading the room. So some of the recommendations were to clearly promote aging in community and the village's support of it, perhaps to establish an ongoing commission to have some specific tasks, and I fleshed these out a bit in the document, what some of those tasks would be, to be kind of the partner for aging in community going forward. Also felt that it might be of value to designate kind of a liaison in all of the key public-facing departments who would be the first contact for members of the community if they had questions or uncertainties. To link aging in community with other municipal efforts. What's important to you, I think it's of value to try to figure out a linkage between aging in community and the other initiatives that are high on Bensenville's agenda, including, frankly, diversity, how to get the entire community involved with aging in community, because I know that's something that's on your agenda already. I did some of this in my homework, but I leave it for you with more time and more knowledge to review the ordinances, the plans, the programs that you do have to see how they fit with an intentionality for aging in community. It's easy to talk of one's support, but it has to be evidenced and reflected in all of the other things you do. And that's not easy, so that's why I leave it for you and say some of these are easier and some are not. Study the housing market. A lot of conversation at both workshops about housing in the community, where people live now, how they feel they might be supported so that if in the future they may be able to stay in Bensenville, which they love, in a housing unit that might better support them as they predict their needs might evolve. And, you know, are there housing types that are missing, including, and I know that there was some consideration of accessory dwelling units a year or two ago, perhaps looking at that as another aging in community housing type as well. Pardon me. The implementation of the recommendations, well, as I say, that's on you. That's the villages. So that's, you know, the village board, the staff, the community, as, you know, perhaps led by this new Aging in Community Commission. And I'm hoping you're getting names of anybody who looks particularly interested in that commission, because they'll be getting a follow-up phone call from Mary as the commission is put together. You all should review, you know, read the document, review, select which recommendations you think are good ones, maybe the early ones to look at, and you know, start specifically thinking through implementation plans for those. Continue to partner with new and current and new aging and community partners, including the regional aging network. There are a lot of entities and organizations working to support older adults in communities, and it was clear to me when I invited some of those folks here that everybody would benefit. It would be a win-win to establish a closer and more ongoing linkages between the municipality stakeholders and the aging network stakeholders. And finally, you all are the Bensenville experts, not me. I hope I've identified a few things and a few good recommendations. By no means are the aging and community ideas and strategies exhausted because Brad came to town and spent a good couple of weeks here. So you all are supposed to find additional things and keep adding them. I hope that we've helped, you know, elevate the discussion but not conclude the discussion. And with that, I guess the last thing is just thank you. I've really enjoyed being here. I felt very welcomed. All the people I met, certainly starting with and highlighted by Mary and Kelsey, who has taken another job, so she's not here tonight to be embarrassed. So Mary will have to be embarrassed for both of them. And I look forward to observing your progress, how things go moving forward. And if there's ever any reason you want to reach out to me, you know how to reach me. Mary's always welcome. She's on my phone. She's a speed dial. And thank you. And if you have any questions or comments, I'd be more than happy to converse.
Thanks, Brad, for your presentation. It's an easy read. It's not difficult, so I encourage everyone to read it. It will be posted online as well. Thank you for your time. The Mayor's Caucus for their support for Bensenville. This was one of the first public planning processes we were able to do since COVID happened, so it was great. I think all of the planners in the room all felt very good to see this room filled at the end of last year. So that was good. Thanks for facilitating that, and we appreciate it. And we would be happy to serve as a recommendation as you continue this process in other suburbs throughout the Chicagoland area.
Thank you very much. Mary has already been on one panel that we've put together, so we took you up on that one even before it got out of your mouth, Evan. So.
Perfect. Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, I want to read a proclamation in support of our aging and community commitment. That's me, right?
Yep.
All right. Whereas the Village of Bensenville is committed to raising awareness about aging in community, and whereas Bensenville was selected as a community to participate in the 2021 Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus Aging in a Changing Region program, and whereas 2 workshops were held for internal stakeholders and community input, and whereas policy and pragmatic strategies to evaluate support of aging in community were suggested, and whereas a strategic guide to aging in community was developed by Mr. Brad Whitnick of planning, aging, and whereas the Village of Bensenville is committed to maintain and support programs and services to help foster independence and increase the quality of life among other aging residents. Now, therefore, I, Village President Frank D. Simone, together with the Board of Trustees, do officially acknowledge the importance of raising awareness of aging in the community and will continue to offer and develop services, policies, and programs that focus on maintaining the health, safety, and independence for aging residents within our community. This day, April 26, 2022.
Yeah, Brad, if you can come out, we can do a picture and post this. Can we get the full village board with you guys?
Okay.
Full village board?
Thank you so much. Tell me where you are.
Right here next to me.
Thank you so much. There you go. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good to see you again.
Same here.
So,
Real quick, I think we need to adopt that resolution.
do I have a motion to adopt the proclamation to support of our aging community commitment?
You have a motion?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Call the roll?
Trustee Carmona?
Yes.
Trustee Franz?
Yes.
Trustee Fry?
Yes.
Trustee Lomax?
Yes.
Trustee Panicola?
Yes.
Trustee Perez?
Yes.
That's 6.
Motion carries. Before we get to our public comment tonight, I would like to start off by thanking everybody for coming out tonight. I see some new faces in the crowd. So I want to let everyone know that each person will get their 3 minutes with a maximum of 30 minutes, which is allowed by our ordinance. Also, the village does not respond to individual public comment. So bear with me as I will use the word "I" throughout my opening remarks. I'm simply speaking for myself tonight, and I do not want to speak on behalf of the village board. So when I was elected, I saw what was happening in some neighboring towns where vacant land was being turned into industrial properties. That's why one of the first things that I did as the village president was to annex White Pines Golf Course back into the village. I did this because I felt there would be an interest in the land for industrial developers, and if the village controlled the zoning of that property, we can control the outcome of that property. So the village will always be open and transparent, and we are waiting patiently for our park district to submit their plan of review to us. I don't govern based on innuendos or rumors. Maybe it's because of my career in law enforcement. I gather evidence and facts before decisions are made. When I was asked by Evan to meet with a few neighbors in Crestbrook, I jumped, I went over their house, I sat at their kitchen table, I answered the questions that I had open and honestly. I went so far as to join this White Pines Association or Facebook group. So I could engage with the residents, dispel rumors, share everything I knew of what was going on, but then I was promptly kicked out of the groups by their administrators. So I find it disheartening that the people falsely accusing me of lack of transparency are the same people who run a private Facebook group and kick me out and continue to ban anyone who doesn't agree with their views. So with that being said, it's always been my policy over the last 5 years that whatever decisions are made are going to benefit all of the residents of Bensenville. Okay? Now I agree, not everybody's going to be happy all the time. But we have to take in consideration it's all of the residents of Bensenville, not just an elite vocal few. And as you guys all know, because I know everybody's been doing their homework, that right now is currently zoned residential R1. So when they come up with a plan, not the pictures that everybody's seen, not that the stuff that's floating around in the, I'll call it Twitter sphere. I know it's not Twitter, but I want to see hardcore facts and evidence, okay? I understand your frustration. I'm frustrated as well, okay? There's some options. As I said at that table, I told the residents to trust me and let them play out what has to play out. Because I know at the end of the day, it's going to come to the village. But guys, don't confuse mistruths with facts. Let's see it. That's all I'm asking. In the 5 years, I don't think now I'll hopefully speak for the board on this. I don't think we've made a decision up here that's hurt the village in any way. I think we've only had progress. So let's see what they have to present. I just had my village manager directly send a email to Joe Velez demanding that as soon as possible. So as soon as I get it, we'll have the meetings. It's going to come before our community development committee, and we're going to see what they have to say. But at the end of the day, if I'm going to say back to speaking for myself, didn't annex back that golf course, it would have gone to DuPage County and none of us would have had a say in it. So all I'm doing is asking you to trust the process. I understand where you guys are at. I understand your frustrations and I feel it. But the 20 or so people in this room, I get you. But I also want to see the bigger picture before anything. And you guys will be more than welcome to be invited to the meetings that we have, and it's open to the public. So I'm asking you guys to let us see what they have to offer us, and we'll go from there. So I hope that's fair. And with that, I will open up public comment.
First, we have up Michael Jaffe.
Mike, before you start, one more thing. I will stay after to answer any questions that you guys want to ask me that I have answers to, which is not really a lot. But I'll also share views of what I think should happen. Okay? Mike, go ahead.
Right. My name is Michael Jaffe. Lived in Bensonville since 1993. I'll admit I'm biased. I love that golf course, east and west. I love playing there. I love the wildlife, the deer, the coyote I've seen, hawks, little baby turtles. It's just beautiful. I attended and spoke at the Park District Board meeting last Wednesday. My last comment was that the decision to possibly sell up to 125 acres of White Pines Golf Course should be decided by referendum. The possibility of losing about half of pristine land to redevelopment is a huge decision to be made. The district has the power to sell without consulting the residents. That doesn't mean that it should. This is such an important decision that affects the entire village. I have seen some of those possible options presented by the district. Light industrial, residential, sports fields, indoor swimming facility, a hotel. A hotel in the middle of our beautiful residential neighborhood? Really? Until last Wednesday, the residents had no idea what the Bensonville Park District's possible options for White Pines was going to be. Perhaps if prior information was forthcoming by the Park District, which involved citizen input, there would not have been such a backlash by the people who spoke at the meeting. Park District Executive Director Joe Velez is doing his job and his due diligence by bringing options to the board to bring in more revenue for the Park District. He was quoted in the April 22nd edition of the Daily Herald about a referendum to decide the possible selling of the course. Quote, "In general, we see low voter turnout in elections, and some of them are historically low voter turnouts. If you do a referendum, the question to be asked, are you really getting a good indication of what the voters, the registered voters in the community, want if you get something like 10, 15, 20%, unquote. That sentiment does not express much faith in the voters. This is the same turnout for the elected officials of the Park District Board. Yet, there's no problem with that. In my opinion, the loss of green space, the introduction of industrial buildings in the middle of a residential neighborhood, increased traffic noise and air pollution, and the reduction of home values would bring out voters en masse to have a say in this important issue. As a resident of the village of Bensonville, I'm asking for your support. As a resident of the village of Bensonville, I'm asking for your consideration of listening to the community in their opposition of the proposed new industrial buildings at White Pine Golf Course. I'm also asking for your support in keeping the open green space available to the entire community for generations to come. Please, trustees and mayor, don't allow the Park District to proceed unless it goes through a referendum with the citizens having a say about what to do with White Pines. And Mayor, I appreciate your comments about listening to us and your frustration your frustration with the board. And that's what I have to say. And thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Paul DeMichael.
I am Paul DeMichael, Demichele. Came here tonight to talk about this Hello Bensonville calendar. Now, I read this regularly to let me know what's going on and tell me when meetings are happening. And I looked at it for July of last year, and there was no meeting for the village of Bensonville. And I'm saying, wow, I get a vacation month. Much to my surprise, there was a meeting, July 27th, and I said, what could have happened there? Well, a lot of things happened, and it turned out that one of them was the contract for the village manager. And this takes more than 3 minutes to discuss, so this will come as a series. I'll take one paragraph at a time. Terms and conditions. The village shall pay a lump sum of $15,000 to the manager to cover costs related to relocating and purchasing a residential unit located within the corporate boundaries of the village within 12 months of the relocation. The manager shall at all times maintain residence thereafter in the corporate boundaries of the village through the terms of this agreement. Or the manager shall be required to reimburse the village said lump sum payment. Wow. That's pretty clear. Fast forward to last contract in July. The manager shall at all times maintain his primary residence
1 minute.
in the corporate boundaries of the counties of DuPage, Cook, Kendall, Kane, Will, or Lake throughout the term of this agreement. You missed Walworth County and Lake Geneva. This is a 180-degree shift. I'm saying, well, there must have been a lot of discussion on it. President DeSimone gave a summary of the action contemplated in the ordinance. There were no questions from the village board. Motion was passed. All were in favor. Not much discussion. I believe a village manager should live where he works and enjoy the fruits of his labor. Maybe he knows something that his neighbors don't, and it looks like he's
That's 3
running for
minutes,
the
Paul.
hills.
Thank you, Paul.
This is it
That's
3 minutes?
3 minutes.
Okay, I'm done.
Next, we have Michael Plumeri.
Good evening, my fellow Bensonville residents, village board, trustees. Michael Plumeri, Plumeri at 16W 656 3rd Avenue. Two things on my mind tonight. I see on the consent agenda, item number 3, we'll be voting on the final plat of subdivision at 400 South Ridgewood. Moments ago, Mr. President, you mentioned you'd like to see hardcore facts and evidence. I was with you weeks ago on April 12th talking about flooding in our area. No one reached out to me to ask, can we see those photos? I have 4 different flood events spanning a 10-year period of 4-inch rainfalls that affect the Volk Brothers subdivision. I understand you want to build 2 or 3 homes on that property. We cannot have any more runoff. You need to see these photos before you decide to put a shovel in the ground on that property. Please. As for White Pines Golf Course, by the way, I have that laptop with me tonight. I can show you those pictures. Please, do not just vote on this. Hold off 2 weeks. I will show you those photos. All right, White Pines Golf Course, I recommend to the village and to the Park District as well. I build a lot of these cookie cutter warehouses, light industrial, shall you say. I've done a lot of Amazons, a lot of my sheet metal in those buildings. 35th and Ashland, the one in Addison, the big one in Monee, another one in Matson. But I would recommend you visit the one I did in Bridgeview. It's at the corner of 75th and 78th Avenue. It's in a neighborhood. It's in a residential area. Light industrial on one side of the street, residential, and like I said, light industrial on the east side of that street, residential on the west side. I recommend you all get on maybe one of these school buses that are sitting idle during the day. Go down there and take a look and maybe talk to the residents in that subdivision and ask them how that Amazon has affected their life, their community. And maybe talk to the village officials in Bridgeview and ask them if it was a good thing or a bad thing to let that happen. Those are my comments regarding White Pines. So please, let me show you those flooding pictures tonight. I will stick around. Thank you.
Next, we have Gary Gardner.
My name is Gary Gardner. Well, it seems as though Bensonville is back on the map again. It's not a result of anything this board has done correctly, and not for the nice place to raise a family in this record real estate run-up, but merely for its proximity to O'Hare Airport. I think most of us can agree that the many negative impacts from O'Hare is the worst thing about living here. What the Park Board and the Village Board have been secretly planning to do with the White Pines Golf Course will certainly add to our woes in a similar fashion. Did any of you board members happen to watch the CBS Sunday morning program this past Sunday? I suggest you do, as the first story feels very relevant to what is happening here. While some local homeowners might be interested in selling their homes for a premium, many of us feel that our homes are not for sale, period. At least those two neighborhoods that were raised to build the large warehouses were adjacent to the industrial corridor. I'm not against good ideas that will bring more business here, but I feel it crucial that the right balance be retained. The separation of residential and industrial is critical to maintain that balance. Many of us are starting to wonder if there are any properties in our zip code that wouldn't be granted a zoning variance from this board. Like the church that has recently been offered $8 million for its 2-acre parcel adjacent to the White Pines Golf Course. Is there nothing sacred in this town? Most of us that have lived here for 30, 40 years or more, and those of us who plan to stay here, unlike our village manager and his mouthpiece from the so-called Community Alliance, we actually appreciate the small-town feel and the open space that Bensonville offers. God knows it's about the only thing this town still has to offer. Destinations like Plentywood Farm, Brighter's Greenhouse, and Andreessen's Bakery are all gone. Once White Pines is gone, Victory Auto Wreckers will be our last remaining claim to fame. Won't that be such a proud moment for us all? At the last meeting here on April 12th, I requested a written response for your official position, including pros and cons of the 125-acre industrial development and the same for the sports training facility and hotel concept, and also why this board doesn't think these issues can or should be decided without a referendum.
3 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Gardner.
Thank you.
Next, we have Robert Benson.
Hello. Can you hear me? I'm sorry. I'm a little unused to this. The last time I met at a board meeting was back when you were over where CVS is now, and you folks weren't here. Again, Robert Benson, resident of Bensonville since 1976. I just want to thank the board. When I was preparing for this, I saw the news that you were fighting the, or working with a bunch of communities in the corridor where the expansion or the planned merger of Canadian Pacific and Kansas City Southern Railway. I appreciate that, because if it's going to have, according to the impact study that was given to you folks, if it's going to increase things 300%, that's crazy. But on the same token, I just want to, and I appreciate your comments, President, that you want to wait and see the facts, and that you're concerned about the industrial situation for the community. So I just want to make sure that you do follow through and have public hearings and listen to everybody's comments about it, because it would be a shame to have something that really would be geared for the airport. If you have warehouses, which probably is what they're looking at, I don't think they have anybody specific in mind right now. It's developers that are doing it. But that's, again, kind of like what you said, rumors or speculation. The other thing is, for the trains, the freight, that's how things get around. And then also access to the highways. We're perfect for all three things. So I'm just concerned about the added exposure to traffic and so forth for the community. So I appreciate your time and allowing us to talk.
Thank you.
Next, we have Laura Charbonneau.
Thank you. I hadn't planned on speaking tonight, but I'm going to add to what Mike said earlier. My name is Laura Charbonneau. I live on Ridgewood Avenue, just this side of, or north of 3rd Avenue. My yard floods. My yard floods. My husband and I have missed work because we can't pull out of the garage. It floods. And by building on the Ridgewood Avenue property at 2nd Avenue, I'm very concerned about that where that water is going to go, since it will no longer be an open piece of property. There's no storm drain there, so that water will head downhill, and I'm downhill. That worries me. Added to that is there's a storm sewer, that runs from the other side of Route 83 along the side of my yard. There are 3 openings on that storm sewer. The storm sewer ends at White Pines. My flood water goes to White Pines. If half of the property of White Pines disappears to building, my flooding issue will not get better. It will get worse. When the rain falls as fast as it does sometimes, the drains fill, the sewer fills, And it's one thing to watch the water go down. It's alarming to watch the 3 drains, start to bubble up the water. And then it's all over. Then I don't get to go to work. Well, when I was working, I just retired. But it's an issue. I'm worried about it. I'm worried about what's going to happen to my property and all the property around us. Stormwater is an issue. And I'm hoping that nothing gets decided or built on without that having been addressed. And I'd really like somebody to tell me what will be done to make sure that my yard doesn't flood worse. You have my email address. Please contact me and tell me what you're going to do to help me and ease my concerns about flooding. Thank you.
That concludes in-person public comment.
I think there's one person that wants to speak also.
If it's possible, this is off the cuff. if you don't
Yeah, we still have time.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I'll be brief. I appreciate you have a long night ahead. Hi, my name is Eileen Sensati. I live down the street at 217 South Center Street. I grew up in Wooddale and moved to Bensenville in 1999. I just heard about this maybe 2 weeks ago. I don't think there's been a good job of the Park District, and honestly, I question you all here at the village to letting Bensenville residents know what has been discussed. And I found out a lot of information from that Facebook group, and I'm glad I did. I understand your frustration of being kicked out. I wonder if you understand. I think you will, because I just listened to you talk. My frustration, because I heard you call us elite group. I never made more than $54,000 in my life. I'm not an elitist. I've lived here a long time. Went to Fenton. And I'm frustrated and disappointed by that characterization. And I think a lot of Benson, I don't think, I know, because I've been talking recently to people. I'm a little nervous. I don't usually do this. But I've been talking to my neighbors and a few other people who contacted me, that is from this area. And they're shocked. And they're worried. And I hope you take this seriously. I think you do, but elitist? I'm not sure anymore. So what I'm hoping for is a referendum in the end. But more than that, I hope you have meetings. I hope you urge the Park District, which seems very defensive, to have meetings. And I mean things like maybe a PowerPoint presentation so people can see what you're talking about. And a map like, or this is option A, B, C. Why this has to be done, in some people's opinion.
1 minute.
This is a huge impact. This isn't a normal board meeting. People, and must know this, people don't look at the board meetings thinking something huge, major impact is going to happen. It needs to be advertised. People need to be reached out to. And I hope you consider that. And please, stop it. We're not elitist.
We do have 2 online public comments. The first one is from Jennifer Marcuson of 240 South York Road, and she had written, regarding the White Pine sale, we are against the property being sold for more industry to be added into our town. Homes off 83 and homes north of Irving, west of York, have been wiped out to building industry, along with the massive wipeout of so many homes east of York for O'Hare. Adding industry to White Pines will change the charm of our neighborhood, along with increase in traffic and pollution. Please put the industry down at the corner of Grand and County Line. That land is still for sale. Thank you. And second, we have from Ronald Peterson of 620 South York Road, and he writes, I am against the sale of White Pines Golf Course and will vote for such if called upon. And that concludes public comment.
This will conclude public comment. Number 1, is there a motion to approve the minutes from the April 12th, 2022 Village Board meeting?
You have a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any modifications to the minutes? Please call the roll.
Trustee Carmona?
Yes.
Trustee Franz?
Yes.
Trustee Fry?
Yes.
Trustee Lomax?
Yes.
Trustee Panicola?
Yes.
Trustee Perez?
Yes.
That's 6.
Motion carries and minutes are approved. The next item of business is to approve the warrant in the amount of $1,960,617.31. Is there a motion to approve the warrant?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the warrant? Please call the roll.
Trustee Carmona?
Yes.
Trustee Franz?
Yes.
Trustee Fry?
Yes.
Trustee Lomax?
Yes.
Trustee Panicola?
Yes.
Trustee Perez?
Yes.
That's 6.
Motion carries and the warrant is approved. Would the deputy village clerk please read the 23 ordinances and resolutions on the consent agenda that were discussed at the committee of the whole meeting?
Number 1, ordinance amendment to Title 5 Traffic and Motor Vehicles, Chapter 2, Stopping, Standing, or Parking, Section 5-2-13, No Parking Zones. 2, ordinance amending Village Code, Title 3, Section 3, Chapter 5 of the Bentonville Village Code, increasing the number of outstanding Class E1 liquor licenses from 9 to 10. 3, ordinance granting a final plat of subdivision at 400 South Ridgewood Avenue, CDC Case 2022-04. 4, ordinance granting a variation to construct an addition in the interior side yard at 422 East Pine Avenue, CDC Case 22-02. 5, resolution authorizing a contract with American Mobile Staging for the Liberty Fest events for the years 2022, 2023, and 2024 in the not-to-exceed amount of $14,352 for each year. 6, resolution approving an agreement between the Village of Bentonville and Mad Bomber Firework Productions for the contracted production services 2022, 2023, and 2024 in the not-to-exceed amount of $48,500 annually. 7, resolution authorizing the execution of a 3-year agreement and purchase orders with Diversified Audio Group for the lighting and sound for the Music in the Park Series 2022 to 2024 in the not-to-exceed amount of $15,680 annually. 8, resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement and purchase order with American Mobile Staging in the not-to-exceed amount of $15,600 for the staging for the 2022 to 2024 Music in the Park concert series. 9, resolution authorizing a contract with Corrective Asphalt Materials, LLC, for the 2022 pavement preventative maintenance program in the amount of $54,354.60. 10, resolution authorizing the award of a construction contract for the 2022 to 2025 various native vegetation maintenance projects to McGittney Bros, Inc., in the not-to-exceed amount of $58,831.15. 11, resolution authorizing a contract with Eagles Landscape 2 Corp. For the 2022 lawn and alley maintenance programs for the Village of Bensenville. 12, resolution authorizing the execution of a design-build contract with Trans Systems for the emergency repair of a box culvert located at 710 West Irving Park Road in the not-to-exceed amount of $50,000. 13, resolution approving a 5-year agreement between the Village of Bensenville and Quicket Solutions, Inc. for ticketing software in the not-to-exceed amount of $1,800 monthly. 14, resolution for the approval of a 2-year service agreement between Flock Group, Inc. and the Village of Bensenville for purchases, service, and support for 5 Flock Falcon cameras. 15, resolution approving a license agreement for use of village-owned property at 302 West Green Street by Roots and Wings, Elias E. Reyes, NFP. 16, resolution authorizing the execution of a police service agreement with DuPage Metropolitan Enforcement Group, DUMEG, as a financial contributor. 17, resolution granting the advice and consent to the village president's reappointment of Robert Madura to the Police Pension Board. 18, resolution granting the advice and consent of the president's reappointment of Doug Eltman to the Bensenville Fire District No. 2 Board of Trustees. 19, resolution granting the advice and consent of the president's reappointment of William Belmonte Sr. to the Board of Police Commission. 20, resolution granting the advice and consent to the president's reappointment of Ronald Rowe to the Community Development Commission. 21, resolution approving the reappointment of Ronald Rowe to serve as chairman of the Community Development Commission. 22, resolution authorizing the release of minutes of certain closed session meetings. 23, resolution authorizing the destruction of audio recordings of certain closed session meetings.
Is there a motion to approve the 23 ordinances and resolutions listed on the consent agenda and read by the deputy clerk?
You have a motion.
Is there a second?
Second?
Please call the roll.
Trustee Carmona?
Yes.
Trustee Franz?
Yes.
Trustee Fry?
Yes.
Trustee Lomax?
Yes.
Trustee Panicola?
Yes.
Trustee Perez?
Yes.
That's 6.
Motion carries. Items on the consent agenda are approved. We do not have any village report. A couple of remarks. The village is offering free mulch delivery to our residents this spring. There's still time to submit your application. All applications must be submitted by May 4th. Please see the village website or call Public Works for more information. April is National Safe Digging Month. Throughout the month of April, we are educating our residents on the importance of contacting Julie before any outdoor projects. The goal of this is Call 811 initiative is to reduce the risk of striking underground utility lines and potentially causing environmental or property damage, costly delays, or personal injury. So before you undertake a spring gardening project and dig in your yard, please be sure to call Julie at 811 to protect yourself and your infrastructure. That concludes presidential remarks. Do we have any village manager report?
I just want to clarify one of your comments, Mayor. I think the mayor said a lead statement in regards to a select Say it again? Is that correct?
Yes.
Say it again? A lead was in, I'm putting words in your mouth, sir, but it was in regards to a select private Facebook group, not in regards to someone's socioeconomic status.
I still object. We can talk about it later.
I have no report.
Is there a village attorney report?
I have no report, Mr.
Is there any unfinished business to come before the board tonight? Any new business to come before the board tonight? Is there a need for executive session?
There is not, Mr. President.
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
You have a motion.
Do I have a second on the motion?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Trustee Carmona? Trustee Franz? Trustee Fry?
Yes.
Trustee Lomax?
Yes.
Trustee Panicola?
Yes.
Trustee Perez?
Yes.
That's 6.
The motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.